In Gusto, one of the things that we believe to build a great software experience, to build a great experience in general, it's not just the software, it's also the human touches.
I'm seeing more and more companies also including those functions as part of the product umbrella, because I think it makes sense, right? It's not just technology piece, it's also like what your users are doing with your product and how you can ensure that there is a connection to how you improve that product.
3 people out of that group told me that their password to their payroll provider, let's call them ABC, is ABC. That is insane.
I'm very curious to know why you picked compliance or payroll, because that resonates as something relatively unsexy.
You don't think compliance is sexy? The government creates 15,000 new rules and regulations every year for businesses. Instead of being data-driven, be data-aware and build your intuition by talking with lots of customers. You don't expand if your core product offering doesn't have high product market fit.
I think what you're describing is truly becoming an ecosystem where there are other businesses on top of your own platform that can also benefit from it and truly create their own economy.
Maybe it's something controversial. Product management is made up.
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO at Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. Our next guest is Tomer London, co-founder and chief product officer at Gusto, the leading HR platform for small and medium businesses in the US. Founded 12 years ago, Gusto is now valued at $9.5 billion. Last year, generated over $500 million in revenue and processed payroll for more than 6% of employers in the US. In this episode, we'll cover how to build 0-1 products within a large company, how to avoid letting data and experimentation slow you down, the value of integrating customer success into the larger product org, the evolving responsibilities of a CPO as the company scales, how to choose the right market segment for your product, and how to expand from a product into a platform into an ecosystem. Welcome to the show, Tomer.
All right. Thank you. Great to be here.
I heard that you built your first software for your dad's clothing store.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when I was, so I grew up in Israel, and my dad has a small business, a clothing store, that he's been running now for over 30 years. And, I just grew up like many small business families, just grew up in the stores, going to the store almost every day after school and help, whether it's organizing or cleaning or answering phone calls or whatever, was needed to be done. And at one point I figured out I learned that our inventory is just like such a messy process to go and track all the inventory, what we have, what we don't have, what we need to order from vendors and so forth. So I was lucky enough to be introduced to like Visual Basic by the Visual Basic 6. Like this I got this wonderful book from the bookstore right next door, and learn how to code and build like a very, very simple inventory management using Visual Basic 6. And that's really the first software I built that was useful. And I got to see my dad using it, and really using it to run the business. So that was just like a huge moment for me, just like building something that helps people,
What age was that?
I want to say like 14, 13 even, something like that. Yeah. And, growing up in Israel, my native tongue is Hebrew. So I was just really lucky that book was available and translated to be in Hebrew, so I can actually learn and go and code it on my PC back home. Probably like a Pentium.
That's awesome. Well, you started adding value early in your life.
Yeah.
The other fun fact I see is that you play the guitar and drums.
Oh yeah, I love that. No, my life is like, building Gusto, family and kids, and then music, and, in my free time, like, drumming and guitar.
I've seen a lot of engineers who are really good at music, and there must be like a strong connection there between coding and also like, coding music in a way.
For me, like when I specifically with the drums, when I play the drums, it's almost like certain parts of my brain get turned on that are not on throughout the day. And there's just incredible amount of like blood and energy flowing to that side of the brain. And you get to be extremely present and in the moment and just not think about anything else and not worry about anything and not be, kind of interrupted by random thoughts. You really focus on the rhythm and getting it right. And it's just like it's almost therapeutic.
Well, let's talk about Gasto and your own evolution as the co-founder and CPO. You kept the same title. However, I can imagine that your job description or different responsibilities evolved quite a bit. So I would love if you can guide me through that journey.
Yeah, when we started the company, this is late 2011, early 2012. Like it was just the three of us, Josh, Eddie, and I. So there was no product to CPO. There's no product to manage. It was just the three of us. So in the early days, it was just the three of us were coding. So we were kind of coding and then like multiple different chapters, maybe like 4, 5, 6 different chapters throughout my time now for 12 years. In the company, and every chapter has its own kind of meaning, I guess, for me of like what actually was my role and how that role evolved and what was my focus, and then also learnings and things like that. So I would say the first chapter was, it started from, when we started the company, just the three of us, until we had probably like, I want to say 12 engineers, something like that. And throughout that time, my focus was, I was just coding. And I was, writing software just like the next engineer. And then on my non-coding time, I was writing specs and figuring out like, given the customer conversations we were having or I was having, what needs to be built. So that's kind of like the first chapter. It was kind of coding, talking with customers, writing specs. And then over time, what I noticed, again, starting with just the three of us, it was like 90%, 95% coding. And then when we got to around 10 engineers, I want to say it was more like 10% coding at that point. But also over time, I realized that, the kind of the team needs me more and more and more to do the called like the specification, they're bringing in the customer insights, what customers are telling us, the feedback, their biggest problems, and less the coding on the other side. So I kind of slowly transitioned. One other thing that I've done that I was actually responsible for around that time is our customer care and our compliance teams. And that is very, very important in our business because, when you think about payroll, right? We started the company, really our focus was just helping small businesses with payroll. And the goal was over time to go and expand. And that's what we've done and expanded to have really this all-in-one platform for everything a small business needs when they start, build, grow their teams in a compliant way, right? But we started with just payroll. And payroll is really all about maintaining compliance, right? Making sure that you don't break the law, that you work with the IRS correct, that you work with the state agencies correct, that you take all these hundreds of thousands of rules and regulations and comply by them using our software. So having that part for me as a chief product officer was really, really important. So, you have the compliance side as well as you have the kind of the software building side. I'll say one more thing, which is in Gusto, one of the things that we believe still today, and I think it's quite contrarian and different than most software companies, is that to build a great software experience, to build a great experience in general, it's not just the software, it's also the human touches. It's also customer support. It's also customer success. It's also the human touch on the other side, right? So when you look at our, when you talk with our promoters, if you look at our NPS, when you talk with our promoters, why do they promote? Why do they give us back then in that time 85 NPS and even higher? Why? 2 reasons. First one, the software is easy to use and delightful and modern and kind of just what they would want from a consumer app as opposed to a business app. And the second reason is when they call us, they reach someone who's knowledgeable, who really helps them solve the problem quickly and really makes their day a little bit better and lighter. So both of these things really, really matter. So putting them under one roof since the beginning made a lot of sense for us in our journey. So chapter 1 was really all about kind of coding, light product management, and talking with customers, with customer success and customer support. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is all right. We hired more and more engineers. I didn't have time to code anymore, and I also didn't have time to kind of help all the engineers and kind of collaborate with everyone to make sure that we're building the right things in the right way. So we have to hire a product manager. And that was a really, really interesting journey too. We can talk about that if you want, but that second chapter is all about building like the skeleton, very small product team, like 2, 3, 4 people, all super hands-on, working with engineers and developing the product. So that was like kind of the second chapter, which is like, chief product officer means leading the product management team, customer care, compliance, but really not doing any coding. The next chapter is probably when our PM team reached to something like 15 or something like that. And at that point, it was really all about, well, the team is large enough. I can't actually be the direct manager for everybody, as well as like with the customer care team and everything. It's just too big of an org. I don't have the ability to do it all. And then you start needing to build like a product management practice and craft, because you need to hire like managers. We call them people empowerers, PEs. Because we believe that people don't want to be managed. We're not paperwork. People are not paperwork. We want to be empowered to their best work. So so that chapter was all about how do we bring in great PEs and create a craft for product management that's codified. So it's easier to go and hire people, onboard people, as well as, enable people to train and learn on the job and, have the best practices to their craft. So the last chapter is really all about, company now at scale. Today, Gusto is 2,500 people. And now it's all about like with this really large scale, I'm going to be focusing specifically on, so instead of kind of running the whole org and doing everything that Gusto does, I'm focusing on more of like the, what we call the emerging products, the things that are kind of newer, more 0 to 1, kind of more higher risk. And that's kind of what my job is today.
One of the things that I love about what you said is you kept redefining your own job description to also fit where you can add the most value instead of what just the book should say. Because, yes, I'm sure there are probably better managers or better specialists in different areas, but like you find in those areas where you can still be in your genius zone and add tons of value while keeping an eye on other things that are not just product per se, right? You mentioned compliance, you mentioned customer success. I'm seeing more and more companies also including those functions as part of the product umbrella, because I think it makes sense, right? It's not just technology piece. It's also like what your users are doing with your product and how you can ensure that there is a connection to how you improve that product.
Right. Exactly. And I would say product management, in my opinion, I'm going to say maybe it's something controversial. Product management is made up. There's no, if you look 100 years ago, right? There's no like universities who teach product management 100 years ago, right? There's no people who are, there's a lot of jobs that have thousands of years of history. Product management is not one of them. What I mean by that is that it is really depending on the specific company, the specific product, the specific business. And the practice and craft of product management should be really tailored to what you're trying to do with this business and customer.
Yeah, and applying that same mindset to the kind of the right reason behind your own company and why your company exists. I'm very curious to know why you picked compliance or payroll, because that resonates as something relatively unsexy.
Yeah. Well, you don't think compliance is sexy?
No.
Well, for us and for me, I would say the passion is around small businesses and entrepreneurs. The passion is how do we help more people start companies and be successful, hiring their teams and make teams successful, right? That is the focus. Imagine a world where it's easier to start a small business. It's easier to hire a team. It's easier to build a team that does great work together, right? That really unleashes incredible amount of creativity, productivity, opportunity. And, that's a world that we all want to live in. So that's really the focus. That's where we're coming from. That's where I'm coming from. Now, the thing is, the government creates, and you're not going to believe this, 15,000 new rules and regulations every year for businesses. 15,000, right? Just reading all the rules will take your whole year, right? So that's insane. Now, again, it's coming from a good place. Like these rules and regulations always come from trying to protect the consumer, trying to protect the business and all of that. But the result is that if you're trying to start a business, it's just really hard to comply to all these rules and regulations. So what we're trying to do is make it really, really easy for these businesses by automating all of these compliance requirements, whether you're trying to hire, a small team, three employees working on a bakery down the street, or whether you're trying to build like a 200 people technology company that's across the US and across the world, we want to make it really, really simple. The like as simple as like if there was a computer game, right, of like starting a business, and you want to click hire a person, you click a button and everything just gets done. That's how we want it to be, so people can really focus on building their business.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of quote unquote unsexy businesses and really trying to pick a niche that not a lot of people are looking, where you mentioned that the population is pissed off, right? They are frustrated with that current state of the art.
Oh yeah, like okay. Here's a story I got to tell you. There's a competitor. I'm not going to name them. I'm just going to call them ABC for a second. Okay. So one of the things that we've done earlier on in the company, before we wrote a single line of code, is just to go around and talk with a bunch of potential customers, and literally anyone who would speak with us, anyone, right? So it could be friends, could be friends of friends, could be just like teachers. I was at Stanford at the time, so talk with professors, really anyone, right? So I talked with 30, 50 business owners, and three people out of that group told me that their password to their payroll provider, let's call them ABC, is fuck ABC. That is insane. That is just insane. I never believed that I would hear something like that. And like my conclusion from this is, and by the way, I didn't ask people what their password is. They just wanted to tell me because I asked them, how are you feeling about your payroll, provider? So my conclusion from this, and, kind of connecting it to the success of Gusto, is, if you're trying to build something 0 to 1, if you're trying to build a startup, focus on where there is a lot of emotional reaction to your story, to what you're pitching. It's either people are super pissed off or people are really excited. All the middle, the 90% of the middle doesn't matter. When you show your product, you show your prototype, people are like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, that's nice. Not good enough. Oh, maybe I'll buy it. Not good enough. You need them to say, holy shit, this is incredible. And I want to go and do this. Now, okay, listen, this is obviously hard to find, but I think it is something that is important to try to get to. So that's my conclusion on that one.
You have another hot take about how data-driven PMs should be, especially when they're trying to build something from 0 to 1.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think, all of us grew up in the past decade with this idea of, coming from the lean startup movement, coming from like, Facebook, and the kind of product management practice they had there, and a bunch of other places. We grew up on this idea of like being data driven. And like, it's all like the product management world is not about making decisions with their gut. It's not about making decisions with what they believe, but rather it's about collecting data, run the right experiments, and then have the data make the decisions for you. Here's the issue with that. The issue with that is that, especially if you're focusing on small businesses, if you're building for small businesses, or if you're just starting out, no matter what product you have, like the number of customers, the number of data points is not going to be big enough. So what you're going to end up doing is you may run experiments, but you're never going to get statistical significance. Or if you want to wait for statistical significance, you're going to need to wait for a long time. As a result of that, you'll either cut the experiment short and not actually, work on it not get the actual result, because there's a reason why there's statistical significance. Or you're just going to wait and be slow. And both of these are terrible. So in my belief, and by the way, I've done, I did a master's. I was on the way to be a PhD in the world of machine learning and statistics. Like I love numbers. I love this stuff. But I think in the world of product creation, before you have really big number of customers, and I would say even afterwards, you got to trust your intuition that you've built over thousands of conversations with customers to make decisions. And then the smaller decisions, use data, use experimentation. So if you have enough data, so that I would say is really important. You can summarize that in like, instead of being data driven, be data aware. I'm not saying just like wake up in the morning and decide random stuff. Be aware and build your intuition by talking with lots of customers.
Totally. And I remember, sometimes I'm in meetings and I hear this person saying, we need to A/B test that. I'm like,
Right.
look, I know there is a place to A/B test something, but that thing can be used now as a weapon, right? To slow
Right.
everybody down. Like, what do you really want to test? Like, I get it. But like sometimes things don't need to be tested. Or as you said, if we actually test this thing, it's going to take us forever.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, I love how you call it, like, to be used as a weapon to slow you down. And I don't think anybody wants to be slowed down, but I think what people have is lack of confidence. So there's like these 2x2 that I think would be helpful here, which is you can think about, confidence on one axis and humility on the other axis. And the issue is that I think a lot of PMs were trained on having, this kind of, low confidence and high humility. What does that mean? It means like, hey, listen, we don't know really what to do. There's thousands of customers out there. We don't know. We're going to use a scientific method. I don't know. Let's just use the data to make the decision for us. So it's very humble mindset. And no, not confident. It's saying we don't know. Instead of that, what I would advocate for is to stay humble, but also be confident. What that means is like, I'm going to I have talked with X amount of customers. I have, again, intuition built over years of understanding the customer. And we're going to build this prototype and, ship this V1. Now, I'm also humble, which means that after I ship it, the pilot, I'm going to listen to customers and see what they say and then iterate my way. But I still have the confidence to make that step and get something out the market. I don't need to have this analysis paralysis. So high confidence to ship something and high humility to learn that as things change, you need to evolve.
Yeah, that's what I call product sense. This episode is brought to you by EPO, the next generation A/B testing and feature management platform built for modern growth teams by alums from Airbnb and Stitch Fix. With EPO, you can increase experimentation velocity while unlocking rigorous deep analysis. From setup to troubleshooting to analysis, EPO makes experimentation easy. An accessible UI makes it easy to dig into performance. And out-of-the-box reporting makes it easy for you to avoid annoying prolonged analytics cycles. Check out why companies like Twitch, Miro, and DraftKings rely on EPO. Visit getepo.com/product school and 10x your experiment velocity. That's getepo.com/product school. Tomer, I am also curious about your own product expansion story because you picked a segment, right? The SMB. You picked a product, an initial product, payroll. But now I look at your website and there's a full-on platform with so many other offerings, including hiring, onboarding, benefits. So can you tell me more about how you went about picking what's next and integrating it into the existing products?
Yeah, totally. So, okay. So first I would say, let's talk about the target customer. I think the most important question to know about any, when I think about wearing an investor hat and I talk with a company and I'm asking myself, is this a good company or not? How is their trajectory going to look like? It's always about who is the target customer, right? And then how do you build a great product for this customer, great service for this customer, pricing for this customer? The customer segmentation is really the most important question, I think, to determine the path of your company. So choosing the customer is the most important decision. For us, we chose, since the early days, small businesses. And still today, it's our focus. Now, to clarify, we have customers, 500, 600, 700 employees as well on Gusto. But our focus and most of our customers are under 100 employees. Okay. So that's really our focus today. When we started, we noticed that there's a lot of software companies focused on consumers, and there's a lot of software companies focusing on enterprise. But for small businesses, there were very, very few. Maybe, honestly, it was Intuit. That was the one company. And then, you had some startups back then, like Square, now not a startup, but that they just started. Shopify was just starting. So it was a very contrarian take to even go to these small businesses. And, some early potential investors didn't like that and really wanted to push us up market. We never did that. We always stay with small businesses. And the reason is there's two things. One is the need is very high. When we talk with small businesses, we saw that they have the pain and the need for us to go in and solve payroll, benefits, HR, all these different problems, right? So the pain was there. And two is, unlike the history, like the new thing that was happening in 2010, 11, 12 is that people were starting to trust the internet more. So, rewind the clock, in that first decades of the 2000s, business banking was introduced. It took a while, but around 2010, small businesses trusted the internet with their banking. That was a huge step. So it was a really good moment for us to now then say, hey, people are now going to use internet to run their payroll as well, and then run their business as well. That was new at the time. I think if we started the company 5 years before, it wouldn't work. The trust wasn't there in the internet. If we started the business 5 years later, it would have been too late. So timing was really, really a huge deal. Now, okay, so about the expansion. All right, so we're focusing on small businesses. We're not going up market. We have a 6% today of over 300,000 small businesses. So 6% of the market. There's a huge 94% more to go. So we're really, really focused. Okay, so expansion. When we started the company, really the focus was always about how can we help companies, like start companies, build companies, grow their teams, make the team successful so the business is successful. Like it's that kind of win-win situation, right? So from a vision standpoint, we knew that was where we're going to go. It was just a matter of time to go into it. So the question is less about like, should we do benefits? Should we do time tracking? Should we do performance management and HR? It's more around when are we going to do it? So that's a smaller question. That's an easier question to answer. And the answer, to just give a formula, I guess, like it's not a real formula, but like the high level thought is, you don't expand if your core product offering, your existing offering doesn't have high product market fit. So we only expand when we felt like we have, extreme high NPS, like, consistently. And again, like the first several, most of the company's history were over 80 NPS. We only when we feel confident that there's strong product market fit, then we shave off up to a third of the team to go work on the new thing. And then they go and they start up the new thing. And then you do this again and again and again. And that's kind of in terms of the timing. So it's this connection of like product market fit as well as resourcing.
And who do you pick to go build a new thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the folks who often are kind of 0 to 1 type of people, you got to identify them. You got to know how to pick them because they are the right people to start a new product. And in the early days of a company, when you're like 30, 50, 100 people, actually everyone is kind of a 0 to 1 person, almost everyone, right? But when you are 2,000 people, the situation is different. There's a lot of people who are experts in scaling, and we really, really need them, right? And you have less and less 0 to 1 kind of people. So you got to identify who they are. I would say the kind of markers. So who could be a good kind of set of people? I would say first, like start with a very, very small team. Like even if you have grand vision of like making this huge, huge business for, in this new product, you got to start super small. So as small as like 2 people, right? I don't like having one person start on their own. I feel like it's good to have at least 2 to have some accountability and kind of collaboration. So 2 or 3 people. That's one. 2 is that they need to be full stack. Now, what does full stack mean? It depends. But I would say, so for example, it could be an engineer that also does product. It could be an engineer that also does design. It could be like a PM that also does design. It could be a marketer who also does PM and also customer support, So you got to have people who are not kind of constrained in their thinking and experience in like a single box, but rather expansive, right? And then you have to have people who are just have a chip on their shoulders, motivated, hard workers. They just want to get this done. They feel like founders, and they're going to just pull all stops to go and do this. So that's in the team. There's also another conversation about like, how does the big company enable a small team to be successful? But that's another question.
Let's dig in. How do you enable that to ensure that, they are still feeling supported by leadership, but also manage expectations so when they are achieving success, it's still in a relative scale to the overall success that your core product has?
Yeah. That's a great question because, if you put yourself in the mind of like the management team of a large company, even if you have, let's say you have a small team that reached from 0 to $1 million in revenue in a year, which in startup world would be amazing. For you, if you make 100 million or $1 billion of revenue a year, it's not even in the conversation. So then you say like, hey, there's this group of engineers there that we know are really talented. Why don't we go put them on the big stuff, right? So it's so simple to get this wrong. And most companies get this wrong. And everyone's trying to get better at this, including Gusto. We're not perfect. But here's some rules and things that I would say, like things that help us do this well. So first, start with a small team. Second, make sure that team and resources are carved out. What carve out means is that in terms of when you do budgeting in the product management organization, the engineering organization, wherever you do your budgeting process, these folks, these resources are carved out of the conversation. They're not negotiable. You can't move between the 0 to 1 efforts to the non-0 to 1 efforts. So that's one thing. It's a top-down decision in the beginning of the year to say, hey, X amount of resources are carved out. You can't touch them, right? Okay, so that's that. The next thing is setting goals and milestones ahead of time. And we like using something similar to the venture model. So here is the milestone you need to reach for like your seed round. Here is the milestone you need to reach for your Series A. Here's your milestone you need to reach for your Series B. And each one of these, you put a timeline to it. Like in the next 6 months, Carlos and Tomer we're going to the side. They're going to go and build this new business. In the first 6 months, what they need to prove is they have a prototype that's working and they have, at least 30 customers that are excited to buy it, right? So that's like seed round. And then when they do that, they get one more engineer. Cool. We did that. Great. So now we put the Series A. Series A is you got another 6 months to a year. And this time you need to get a product out there and you need to get to like whatever, let's say, 300,000 in ARR, right? When you do that, you get 5 more engineers, right? So that's the sort of stuff that I think can really help align expectations to the small team, but also to the big company. So when we get to that conversation in the end of the round, like for the round, and we see here's what the team does and here was the goals, the management team, leadership team can feel like, they're meeting their goals. These are small goals, but for where they started, it's incredible.
I think Google had a good model also to assess the maturity of a product and decide when to graduate it and give it adult treatment. But I think they did a good job at facing it in a way that a good experiment doesn't die just because it's not an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. The adulting phase is also interesting. I'll give you an example. So when we started the benefits business, it started with like a really tiny team, 2 or 3 people. Literally, when they were working in the basement, no windows. I was one of them, and we had an amazing time. It was super fun. And I would say so. We built this benefits business. Ended up getting it. Really, it took a while, but hitting all the milestones, got to tens of millions in ARR. And at that point, like the team was, I don't know, I want to say like a few dozen people or something like that. I don't know, 40 people, something like that. And then we were like, okay, well, we gotta now like graduate them, bring them back to Big Gusto. And that process was much more complicated than I thought. Because in my mind as a founder, I have one leg here in Big Gusto, the other leg in here, and we called it Hawaiian Ice. That's like our code name, HI, Health Insurance, Hawaiian Ice. So we wanted to bring in Hawaiian Ice into Gusto. And, I thought like, okay, just wake up the next day and we're all working in the same office and it's all the same. But what happens is you have a team that's like super focused on building their own business. They have their own culture, right? They have their own way of doing things. They have their own tools. They have their own ceremonies, their own way of doing things. And actually bringing those things together was harder than we thought. We've done that. But I would say looking backwards, I would be, and what we've done since is to actually don't wait until you're reaching like a scale of like 40, 50 people to bring the team together. Try to bring it much earlier. When you get to, I don't know, 20 people, that's probably enough. You could get to a nice enough scale in terms of your revenue and then bring the teams together. Well,
let's talk about what's next for you. I know that you recently released Gusto Embedded. And I would love to learn more about the rationale behind not just enabling your services for your current customers, but now leveraging your current customers also as a channel for their own customers.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Gusto Embedded is the part of Gusto that I'm most excited about today. I think it represents the future of the whole industry. So Gusto Embedded, the idea there is that if you are a small business platform, right, like a big bank, like Chase Bank, like an accounting technology company like FreshBooks that have tens and hundreds of thousands of customers, like a vertical SaaS, right? Like that Vagaro that does vertical SaaS for spas. You want to offer an all-in-one solution for your small businesses. So, your solution is just, you have more to offer, it's stickier, you have better economics, right? So payroll is one of these things that you would want to offer to your customers, but it's just so hard to build. Again, 15,000 new rules and regulations every year, right? So Gusto is an expert in that. So what we've done is we built a Gusto Embedded that allows these platforms to go in and build their own payroll product. So it's FreshBooks Payroll, Vagaro Payroll, Chase Payroll. And for their customers to come in and just click on the tab and run payroll, and it's all connected. It all looks like it exactly like it's that platform. But behind the scenes, it's powered by Gusto. So that is something that we're very, very excited about. I'm very excited because I think it's the right thing for the customer, right? For the customer, if you're already relying on one of these platforms to run your business, it makes so much more sense to bring in more and more and more functionality into it. So, it's all connected. So your time tracking is connected to your payroll, it's connected to your reporting, it's connected to your bank, it's connected to your, kind of everything else. So that's a huge part of Gusto's future. It's something that we're very excited about. It's growing really, really well. I believe that is the future of the industry.
Yeah, and as I think about this as a framework for all other types of products, I've seen a lot of them evolve from being a feature into a product, and then from being a product into a multi-product or platform. And then I think what you're describing is truly becoming an ecosystem where there are other businesses on top of your own platform that can also benefit from it and truly create their own economy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like this progression that you shared is typical, and is something that every industry has their own way of doing it. So with the cloud business, for example, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all creating a cloud business. That cloud technology is something that they built for themselves for their own needs, and then they're figuring out like, hey, actually, other people can go and use it, and they make that its own business line and product. So for us, it's quite similar. Like we've built all of this, incredible amount of, technology and compliance operation to use for Gusto. Now we can take all of this and make this embedded for other companies to go and offer for their customers. So that is something that I believe, is really going to make a big difference out there.
And I don't think this would be a good interview if we don't talk about artificial intelligence. But now, in all seriousness, I really want to learn specific use cases and how you're thinking about integrating this new technology into your product.
Yeah, totally. So I would say there's two areas today that we're looking at. One is customer facing, and the other one is internal facing. A lot of confidence and results in the internal facing already. On the customer facing, not yet. It's a lot of experimentation. So I'll give examples. So on the internal facing side, we have for every single person in our customer care team, in our operations team, they have this AI assistant that helps them just do their job better. So whether it's ensuring consistency around like how do we speak with our customers and the right information on their in their fingertips when they go in and connect with customers, whether it's autocomplete things and kind of automatically scan documents, bring them to the right place. These are all things that are supercharging our ability to serve our customers well. And I mentioned earlier that I really, really believe, at least in the small business case, in our case, the human service is as important as the software experience. Both are important. So for us, investing in technology and tooling for the internal teams is as important as working for our customers directly. So that's one thing. So there's really a nice amount of results there. And, the numbers that, the sort of metrics that you'll see as like improved CSAT scores, you're going to see faster, time to answer a case. You're going to see things like, we can have, the number of customers that an internal person can serve at the same time grows. So these are the sort of metrics that we go and we kind of track and we see improving on one side. On the external side, we're doing things such as, you want to upload, like one of my favorite is, people sometimes gather a bunch of information on a CSV on a spreadsheet, and then they just want to dump it on Gusto, and we figure out that information and put it in payroll and time tracking and accounting, and put it everywhere. And it used to be really hard to do. It used to be like, hey, here's a template, use the template, but the customer is like, I don't like this template. My business needs something a little bit different. So we now have this a really, really cool feature where you literally can dump your CSV and your spreadsheet, and we figure out, how to read it, hours work, extra hours, bonus, whatever time, all of that stuff. And we bring it to the Gusto interface, and we show to the customer, hey, is this what you meant, right? And like the accuracy level for this is just like incredible. It's like over 90%. It's really, really, really cool. So that's an example that's working well. And we also have several other, interactions in the product that, kind of leverage LLMs that we're experimenting with. But these are, I would say, like the big highlights at this moment.
Yeah, because I can imagine you are interacting, as you mentioned, with compliance a lot, and not just for your own customers, but I imagine internally you have other team members who focus on that. And as a product person myself, compliance or legal, it's usually not the type of team that you put in the classic Venn diagram, right? You think about engineering, design, business, and then legal is as far away as possible. So how do you think about really bringing them closer and like using them as a really secret weapon where they can help you build better products, but not slowing you down too much?
Yeah, exactly. We hire this way. So what we hire is builders in all these departments that you mentioned, because our business is helping our customers stay compliant. If our customers are not compliant, we screwed up. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, you're right that the discipline of being a lawyer in the world of legal is all about risk management. And generally, when you think about, if you're a junior in that field, like, what's the best way of avoiding risk? Just not doing things, right? So, how do I want to cross the street and I want to have zero risk? Don't cross the street, right? So, okay. So generally when you pick up like a lawyer, legal person, compliance person off the street, like probably you're going to get some of like this extreme risk averse. What we're looking for and what we're helping develop for people here is a builder mindset, which means, hey, step number one, understand the risk. Put it down. Say, what are the risks that we would be taking? What are the risks our customers will be taking, right? That's one. Two is offer options. What are the ways of mitigating those risks? Because again, we want to make sure customers are compliant and Gusto is compliant. And then three, let's come together. The compliance team, the product, the design team, the engineering team, come together and build a product that does this for our customers, right? So it's usually a combination of, giving some options for our customers, making it really clear what risks, if any, they're taking in going through a certain flow, and really making the best choices that we can as default. So people will make those choices when they build their company.
Tomer, I just found this article on your website. You wrote in 2015 about the 5 product principles. I'm going to read them because I think it's really incredible. Number 1 is show users how much we love them. Number 2 is be opinionated, build the future you strongly believe in. 3 is only do things that are worth doing really, really well. 4 is we are Sherpas, make sure the team gets to where they want to go. And 5 is listen, great ideas can come from anywhere.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, these are some of the principles. One thing I didn't mention earlier on when we talked about the different chapters of being product, and I guess I just just escaped my mind for some reason, is design. So, throughout this entire time I was leading, again, product design as well as data science. And the world of design and the world of product management at Gusto, the overlap is very close. There's a very strong overlap. And the first principles here, like show users how much we love them. If you really think about it, there's kind of 2 elements to it. One is we love our customers. We understand our customers. We empathize with our customers. We spend time with our customers, right? We care about their outcomes, right? We're not just building tools. So that's the first part. Then the other one is we want to show it to them, right? So make sure that you show to our customers the way we do things, that we care about the details, right? When you show customers that you care about the craft and the details of the experience, they think in their mind, they're noticing, you didn't have to do that, right? this is sort of thing that they didn't have to do, but they did it. That really shows attention to details and caring about me and understanding me. So that's like one principle I just absolutely love, and we still use it today.
What I like about using principles instead of just values is that, to me, principle is a way to put the value into action and showing specific examples. So it's easier for someone to fully understand that versus just seeing a nice word on a wall and saying, of course, I want to be transparent and hardworking and smart.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. We have our company values, which is, really all about how we want to treat one another. How do we want to treat our customers, and how we think about kind of the what we value here in a company. And then principles are really putting these into action.
But Tomer, it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you and learn from your own experience, really building from scratch to an incredible scale. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Carlos.